All right, welcome to tonight's show. I'm going to jump in and talk about Strategy's new offering with their preferred stock, STRD. And then we're going to get into also what's going on with the Trump and Elon escalation that's taken place. And then I'm also going to get in and talk about what's happening with the market in terms of Bitcoin. And we're going to look at something called MVRV, which tells us, is Bitcoin getting close to overheated, or is it just totally cooled off right now, and what that means for the bull run. So we're going to jump in right now, not tax advice, not financial advice. Do your own research on this and your own investment research as well. Okay, great. So let's jump in. And first, let's talk about what's happening with Strategy's new fund offering. Yesterday, I talked about it on the show that they came out with STRD, which is a new preferred stock. They now have raised it to $1 billion offering. Basically, what it looks like is 11.76 million shares of STRD at a price point of 85. So originally, it was going to come out at $100 price point, and now it is coming out at an $85 price point. So they're basically going to raise a big $1 billion. And what are they going to do with that $1 billion? They're going to take that $1 billion and they are going to buy Bitcoin. If you weren't on yesterday's show, I broke this down, but it's pretty simple. Anthony, what's shaking, my friend? It's pretty simple of what STRD is. If you look at the lineup of Strategy's offerings, they issue common shares, as we know. They do convertible debt, as we know, or convertible notes, I should say. And then they have these other preferred offerings like Strife, like Strike, and like Stride. This is a similar product to Strife, so to speak. But the difference is it's a 10% dividend that is non-cumulative. So what that basically means, as you see it here, there are quarterly payments that come in. And it says here, it's non-mandatory. Dividends will be paid only when declared by the board. So that's how this works, and it's done in quarterly payments. So if declared, dividends will be paid quarterly beginning September 30th, 2025, and then cash only. So declared dividends will be paid solely in cash, and it's non-cumulative. So if you look at the Strife product that was released recently, if Strategy were to miss a payment, it is cumulative, where then it kind of catches up to where they have to make up that payment, and it can go as high as 18% that they'll have to pay out. This is non-cumulative, so it's going to go about as high as 10%, so to speak. Now, with the face value being below $100 and it's $85, I think it equates to about 11.75% payout. So that's what's going on with STRD, which is exciting because this is just new ways for Strategy to raise money, raise capital, and to buy more Bitcoin. And for those of us who every time Strategy taps the ATM and they issue more common shares and it dilutes the stock and everybody's like, what the hell is going on? Well, this is a great way for Strategy to not dilute shares and for not to have a temporary dip in the market when they do that, or the price, I should say. And now they can raise capital in this very, very cool way with multiple different products that they keep coming out with: Strife, Strike, and now STRD, which is cool. So that's what's going on with Strategy, and it's exciting news what's happening there. Let's take a look at what's happening with just the markets the other day. So if you saw the up and the down, Bitcoin dropped down to 100,000, and a lot of people were wondering what the heck happened. You probably know by now, but of course there was the Trump-Musk feud that took place, and this really freaked the markets a little bit. So Musk criticizes Trump, and he publicly condemned Trump's spending bill as a disgusting, quote-unquote, abomination, and he said that on X. Trump threatens a retaliation, that he's possibly going to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. Whole big fight over the electric vehicle subsidies, and Trump saying he's taking those away. And so there's threatening of the contracts on that. And also this new bill is going to damper Elon Musk's and also the EV industry subsidies. So Elon's not happy about that. And then Musk escalates the conflict. He calls for Trump's impeachment, and he makes allegations about Trump's connections to the Epstein thing. And the markets drop all the way down, Bitcoin down to $100,000, but we have a great support level at 97,000. And we're going to talk about that on the charts here in just a minute of where Bitcoin is in the cycle. And then Tesla plummets, goes down 14%, but recovers in the overnight markets. So that's what happened yesterday. And that is always interesting to take a look at. Now, what happened was you had Bitcoin long liquidations of $308 million when that happened. So it just shows you how the markets kind of freak out and how fragile they are to political news and things that are going on. Long positions, there were 873 million in long positions liquidated the very same day within hours of that announcement. And so with Bitcoin, we saw it do a 4.8% drawdown, but obviously it's recovered now and it's back to 104,000 and change. So that's good. Okay. So that's what happened. If you're wondering, that's what happened. And we see what's going on with corporate Bitcoin treasuries. They're definitely gaining momentum. We're seeing more and more news pop up. If you saw Trump Media Group, they announced the other day $2.3 billion in Bitcoin reserves. They filed to purchase this. And then there was new news that came out this morning that my buddy just sent me about $12 billion additional. So there's now another $12 billion play for Trump Media Company, which is huge. So there's going to be a total of like $15 billion in Bitcoin reserves that they're launching through their media and technology group. So this is huge news, right? Huge, huge news. STRD, we know, is at the top of the game here. They hold over 580,000 Bitcoin now. Depending on where the Bitcoin price is, it's valued at about $60 billion, so to speak, give or take. Metaplanet, no secret, they've been in the news recently. Their stock flew up over the last month and then dropped down by 50% and is now regaining strength again. But they're like the MicroStrategy of Asia, people are calling them. And their basic plan is to acquire 210,000 Bitcoin, which would be 1% of the total supply by 2027. So that's Metaplanet's game plan. And then there's obviously new treasuries that are coming out recently. No Labs is another company that acquired 1,000 Bitcoin as treasury assets. And so we have more and more treasuries popping up. I announced yesterday also that there's a coffee chain that just is doing a $1.1 billion play with their treasury reserves into Bitcoin. So the news is just springing up left and right. It's very, very exciting. And it's pretty badass, I think. So if we take a look at the bigger picture, and then I'm going to just zoom into the micro on this, and I'm going to show you some predictions of people talking about Bitcoin. There's some heavy predictions from like 4 analysts that I looked at today. They're very, very bullish, so take them with a grain of salt. I think they're overreaching on this, and I think it's possible, but I think it's a very bullish situation. So I'm going to go through that. But if you look at, just zooming out to the macro perspective of why people are adopting Bitcoin, it's no secret that we have currency debasement going on. And so with the problem of printing 6.5% more money every year, it's debasing the currency. And people are waking up to that. And instead of using government debt to where, institutions might be storing their value and putting it in 4 or 5% government debt where the government pays them an interest rate for loaning them money, institutions are waking up and going, hey, if I can go to strategy and I can go get preferred stock and I can get a 10% return with Strife or STRD, or I can get a 8% return with Strike and convert it if strategy has a big upside. There's institutions that are turning and looking at not only looking at Bitcoin, but obviously looking to get access to strategy for these different preferred options. And it's a good deal for people, and more people are waking up to this. And the fiscal reality of it is that there's $36 trillion in national debt, and we have about $1.13 trillion in annual interest payments every single year in the US. So this is a big concern, and we're just going to see more and more institutions flow in to Bitcoin and more flow into strategy. And so it's just that simple. Now, this is just a chart that shows a little bit of a technical analysis, but I don't really want to get into this. The thing to pay attention to here is the MVRV ratio that I'm going to show you a graph on here, and implying that we could have a big Q3, Q4 just bullish run on Bitcoin. So I'm gonna jump into that and take a look at that chart now, because I think it's really fascinating. And I've showed this chart before, but this is something to keep our eyes on as we get into, the more of a blow off top that would be coming later on in later quarters, or just having a steady rise and eventually Bitcoin hitting its peak. And for some people who want to take profits, this would be a very interesting chart to look at. So let's take a look at this right now, and let me pull it up for you. So you've seen me share this before, Bitcoin Magazine Pro. This is their chart. It's a very fascinating analysis, and if you look at it here, why this matters is pretty simple. If you look at the MVRV score, to put it in fifth grade language, MV is the market value, and then you have the market value, and then you have the realized value. Now, to put it in simple English, what does that basically mean? The market value is what the current value is right now in the market, and the realized value is what people paid for it. So it's kind of like, if you bought a toy for $10, that would be the realized value of what you paid for the toy. And then if the toy went up to $20, that would be the market value of it. Okay, so you see here this blue line. Let me go to the chart so I can put my cursor on it. So if you see this blue line here, this is the realized value of what people bought it at. So if you look at the blue line, it falls up, and you see the market value is just above that. So people are in profits overall, holders of Bitcoin, but not by much. If you look at the blue line compared to the black is a little bit above the blue. So you have holders of Bitcoin that are in profits, but you're not talking about a massive gap here between what they bought it at and what the profit is at right now. And so now when you drop down here to the Z-score, this Z-score basically tells you, is Bitcoin overheated? And so when it's at a 2.27 as of June 5th, it's not even close to overheated. And so in typical bull runs back in 2020, when it hit 7, and you see this yellow line here, and it starts to peak into this reddish kind of pinkish area. So this is when it starts to peak, when it hits a 7, and that's when it becomes overheated, and that's when one might consider taking profits if they're not holding Bitcoin for the long run. Not financial advice, just showing you theoretical charts. And so in the 2020-21 bull run, it peaked out at 7, a 7 Z-score. Again, we're at a 2.4 Z-score. Why do you care about this if you own strategy? Well, if you own strategy, you're paying attention to this, because if Bitcoin's peaking, then strategies are likely peaking, right? If you go back to 2016 and you look at 2017, 18 here, because that's when the bull run was, and you see this blow off, like you go to a 10 Z-score here. And so as it starts to get in the 7 to 10 range, that's when it becomes overheated. So it went as high as 10. It went way up. And, that's when we started to hit the peak. And then in 2014, you look at the same thing, we start to peak around a 7. And that's when it starts to get overheated. So you see these yellow lines just burst up. And this one never, in 2020, some would say that the bull run ended and peaked out early. We should have gone higher, but it ends off at a 7 here. So if we're at a 2 now, 2.27, and Bitcoin's at 104,000, I think we got a ways to go. I'm just going to pay attention to this, because with strategy, I'm going to be taking some profits, and I'm going to be watching these charts. So that's interesting. And so when you look at some of these analysts who are looking at this chart recently, there were some predictions, and I'm just going to cite the sources. Again, these are very bullish predictions, so I don't want to give anybody false hope or be like, this is what I think it's going to go to, because I don't think we're going to see this with Bitcoin in 2025. But I'm just going to show you, I pulled some data on some analysts, And again, the MVRV is simple. Like if everyone bought toy cars at $10, like that's the realized value. And now the market value is you know, at you know, $20, then they bought it at 10 and the market value is 20. So they're up, right? And when it gets to a 7 or an 8, that's when Bitcoin is about to peak. All right. And right now it's between 2 and 3. All right. So we've got a lot of room before it overheats. And here's what a couple different analysts are saying. You can research them and see what you think of them. I just wanted to see what were people saying as it relates to MVRV, the chart we were looking at. And so this is the CEO of Azure DeFi, Chapo. Not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he says MVRV is rising. That means Bitcoin still has room to grow. And he runs a real crypto security company. He studies the charts and smart on-chain numbers like the MVRV ratio. And he says that MVRV keeps going up. If MVRV keeps going up, the price probably will too. And so his prediction, and he posted this in February 2025, he posted this on Binance. He said maybe it could go to $270,000. So there's a maybe on that. Then you have Gert van Lagen. He's a technical chart wizard, and his quote from him, there's a megaphone pattern as he looks at the chart. That means a huge breakout is coming. He posted this in 2025. He stares at charts all the time. And he says the megaphone pattern basically means big price swings get wider and wider. So you have these price swings, but they're getting wider and wider. And he says Bitcoin could explode upward from there. And he says a potential $270,000 to $300,000 Bitcoin. Then you have Brett, the cycle guy. Here's his quote. He says Bitcoin runs in patterns, and it says we're going big by October. So he studies like time-based cycles, and he's looking at 2021 through 2025 cycle, and he's saying it looks a lot like past bull runs, and that Bitcoin could peak in October 2025, and he's saying it could be 300,000. And then there's another guy, Peter Chung, research boss at Presto. He says Bitcoin could hit 210,000 by the end of the year, and he's referring to MVRV backs it up, the chart we were just looking at. So these are very bullish predictions. And again, the chart we were just looking at, to give it to you here, is this chart here. And so two of them specifically reference this chart. And so as they're looking at where we're at right now and where we could be, that's how they're getting these price predictions of 200,000, 270, 300. Do I think 200,000 is real, a real possibility? Yeah. Do I know? No, I don't know. But I think that's real. And would I be happy if we got to 200,000? Yes. What would that mean for the strategy price? You know, it could mean big things, and it just depends what the MNAV does with strategy. So, you know, Saylor was at the Bitcoin conference recently, and he kind of threw out casually that he thinks the MNAV premium could go back over 3, 4, even 5. So, you know, obviously he's promoting his product and his stock, but we'll see what's going to happen. So, you know, what ranges strategy is going to go into, we'll find out. Where Bitcoin's going to go, we'll find out. But this is just a good chart to pay attention to cover your basis and just make sure that, you know, at least you're watching some metrics, because data tells some of the truth for sure. And it's better than not having data at all. Make sense? So that's the basic data I wanted to share with you today. I know Milton's in here, and we got Edward in here, and Joe and Sandra and Abdullah, and we got Anthony in here, and whole group saying hello. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. Milton's asking, at some point, do we need to see MSTR stop deleting our common shares and let the share price run? We've seen a little bit of that recently. You know, that's why they're coming out with these new preferred stocks. And I think Saylor's, you know, he's a genius. And there was a question where they asked him at the Bitcoin conference, they said, do you think that strategy, you know, is planning to become a bank? And he said, no, because, you know, banks have different regulations than what we're trying to do. We're a company that's offering up different financial products. And so they can come out with these really fascinating financial products like Strife and Strike and Stride, and put them in the marketplace and attract different kinds of investors and different kinds of money. And that's the genius of what they're doing. So We don't just have to rely on the common shares being issued, although they're going to continue to do it. I mean, that's their game. Is when the stock price goes way up, then they're going to go like, great, let's they're going to leverage that because the stock price goes way up and they have a huge gap of gains in there, and they can take that money when they issue common stock and they can buy more Bitcoin. So he's not going to stop tapping the ATM. I just think he's going to be smart with using preferred stock. And he just came out with STRD, which is $1 billion that they're going to be raising in capital through this preferred stock, which is freaking amazing. So so it's great, and if anybody's wondering and they're wondering like, what are these different products with Strife and Strike and STRD? They're just preferred stock, and they're more of a fixed income product, and they're for investors who want fixed income returns. And they're different from a bond because like a bond has like a maturity date on it, but with preferred stock it doesn't. So it just keeps going. So as long as somebody owns it, he's just going to keep paying out the dividend to them, and they can hold on to it and get 10% returns for now to as long as strategy's around, or until a strategy changes the rules or comes out with new products or what have you. So it's exciting. I'm excited. And I was talking to my friend today, Todd, we were chatting, and it was like, hey man, there's so much good news coming out. There's so much incredible stuff. And it seems like some people are just still asleep to it. But there's more and more good news coming out every day, and it's great news to be in strategy. I love the stock, which is why I talk about it on this channel. I love Bitcoin, which is why I talk about it on this channel. And I think we're in for a ride this year. So my advice is strap on, and not financial advice, but just metaphorical advice, and enjoy the ride. And good job for those of you who are weathering this. You're seeing the ups and downs, but this is how it goes. This is my sitting through my third bull run now, and watching this happen and experiencing this happen and have my money in it as well. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2018, right after the bull run up and then the crash. So I bought it after the crash around 3K. I bought several Bitcoin, and that's when I first got in. So I've been watching this for the last 7.5 years now, and it's fascinating. And so if you're in it for the first time, just, you kind of you train yourself and you get used to this, the ups and the downs and the waiting and being patient and not knowing when it's going to come. And when it hits hard. And when it goes down hard. And, my one warning on strategy is just that, that this stock goes up hard and it comes down hard. And so just from an educational standpoint, people who are interested in it, looking at it, just get knowledgeable on it. If anything, just watch the stock, watch how it performs, watch what it does, see how it moves, feel what it'd be like to experience being in it, and just see it and get used to it, because it takes a cast iron stomach to be in something like this. And one would say from the traditional finance world, like, wow, you got to be crazy to go into Bitcoin, right? A lot of people would say in traditional finance. I mean, my brother still talks with my other brothers and my cousins, and some of my other brothers are just like, not even paying attention to this. It's so far from the reality. They're out of the Wall Street world. And even though Wall Street's waking up to it, a lot of the public is not. And so for somebody to go from traditional finance of, 13% S&P 500 returns over the last 10 years, and to look at something like Bitcoin that could go down 13% in a day, it's just a whole new universe. And it requires a strengthening of the mental muscle to be involved in something like this, but a true understanding of the actual properties of what Bitcoin is and how solid and sound it is. And one looking at it to go, hey, I'm going to hold on to this thing. And then strategy, I just think it's a different beast. My personal viewpoint on it is, I know some people want to buy and hold it forever. My personal viewpoint on it is, at some point I want to take profits on it. Just because I know that it will go way up and it will go way down. That's something I'm pretty convinced about. And if it doesn't have like a shoot up and a massive shoot down like we've had in every bull cycle with Bitcoin, if strategy doesn't have that because it's more volatile than Bitcoin, I would be shocked. And if Saylor can pull off enough magic to where he keeps buying and keeping the Bitcoin price stable, and ETFs keep buying and they keep keeping the Bitcoin price stable, and more treasuries come in and they keep keeping the Bitcoin price stable, and Bitcoin just steadily goes up and has dips, I would be shocked. and surprised. But hopefully I'm wrong on that. So there you go. That's the weather in the sports, and I hope it serves you guys. And it's exciting to be part of this. And I think we'll look back on this 5-10 years from now and realize that, you know, we're part of one of the most intelligent companies on planet Earth, Strategy, and we're involved in Bitcoin, the most sound asset on planet Earth, which is cool. So have a fantastic rest of the day and rest of the evening wherever you are. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you guys on the next show. And we'll chat soon. Okay. So like it down below, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and leave a comment if you wish. And I enjoy being here with you guys and spending time with you. Hope you have a great rest of the night.